Forget being a hero. Let's talk about the wisdom part. You become a better human being when you learn things. And learning means constantly unlearning and learning. Listening makes you learn more. Read, watch movies, listen to music. I mean, the world is constantly uh, a classroom. And the more you do that, the more stronger you become, the more wise you become.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Kiva, and lovely to have you all join in today for our special webinar, The Hero's Journey, that is hosted by the fabulous Avril. She's a Kucharia alumnus, and I think many of you have interacted with her. Today, she's brought in a very special guest, Ashvin Mathew, who again, I think many of you would already know. Ashvin has many accomplishments. He's multi-talented. He's a director, a producer, a writer, and an actor. And I think we are all going to really enjoy today's webinar and have the opportunity to learn immensely from this multi-talented person who's joined us today. So thank you so much, Ashvin, for joining us. And thank you, Avril. Always a pleasure to be a part of the hero's journey. So I am going to take a pause and welcome you all. Do share the chat box, share with us where you're joining in from. Let us know who you are, and we'll then get started. So over to you now, Avril.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiva. And Kiva always very graciously wishes everybody in the time zone that they are. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good day. And if any of you who are just getting ready for bed, please watch us and then get to bed. So I'll say good night in advance, but don't log off. So welcome to our third episode in the hero's journey. And greetings, Rakesh, greetings. If I miss anybody, please excuse me because I'm horrible at multitasking, especially since I'm a mindfulness coach. So hi, Tina from South Africa. So today I have the pleasure of introducing one of my closest friends, Ashvin Mathew. I just know him as a fantastic human being. The rest of the world knows him as an actor, a producer, a director, a script writer, and a stand-up comedian. And that's how I first met Ashvin, where I was laughing rather loudly and inappropriately, as some people would term it, at his rambunctious jokes. And I thought when I first met him that's one authentic human being and a very brave comedian, because he was cracking jokes about things 20 years ago in India that many people would frown upon because of cultural, conditioning, I would say. But here we are 20 years later, almost 20 years later, if I remember correctly, 19 years later. And it's a pleasure to bring him on for this episode of The Hero's Journey, because I'm trying to find people who are not only accomplished in their field, but who resonate with what we do as ICF coaches and as professional coaches, our fraternity. So welcome, Ashvin, to this podcast. Welcome to our coaching fraternity. We're a small but mighty fraternity of 37 people right now. And you have so much to offer. Hi, Archana. You have so much to offer. So would you like to add something about yourself in your own, unique way?
First of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to talk to all of y'all. Whenever these things happen, I'm always hit with an imposter syndrome. When you say a hero's journey and you said you wanted to speak to me, I wanted to understand your definition of a hero, because I'm not sure that I've reached anywhere there. And if I have achieved anything, it's always with the help of a whole lot of other people. So, but Thank you. It's nice to be here. And yes, it's always wonderful to talk to you. After 19 years, we're still laughing. So that's very important, right?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, friendship and laughter are, the finer stuff of what life is made of. I mean, otherwise, what's the use of living, right?
Absolutely.
Live every moment in the moment and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And nothing better than, good friends, because good friends are rare to find, especially in these, very, very turbulent times. So you mentioned something, Ash, just now, and for everybody, I call Ashvin Ash. I can't get used to calling him Ashvin, so I'm going to stick with Ash. So you said something to the effect that, I don't know what your interpretation of the hero's journey is. Why don't you tell us what is your interpretation of a hero's journey? Because like you rightly said, everybody identifies with a hero and a hero's journey very differently. So what would that look like for you, Ash?
Growing up, getting into arguments at Sunday school about whether God is great or Superman is greater. For me, a hero or a superhero is someone who helps other people in different ways. A hero is, again, a hero is a person who's there for somebody, who helps the downtrodden, the sad. That's my interpretation of a hero. So for me, my heroes would be my mom, my grandmom, my dad, some of my friends who are in different walks of life. For example, my friend Anu George Kandanatopal, who's now the head of International Justice Mission Canada. She used to go around with her team, freeing people from slavery, from bonded labor. So that for me is a hero and a superhero. So, when I hold those people as heroes, and then when you use the term hero and invite me to speak, that's why I have the imposter syndrome, where I'm like, but thank you, it's appreciated. But to answer your question, those are the people I consider heroes. When you don't necessarily have a lot of means when it comes to helping people monetarily, and yet you are there for somebody, you can help them have a better life, alleviate them from their suffering and their sorrow, you become a hero to them. So yeah, that's what I think is a hero.
Thank you for answering that so eloquently. And yes, you have mentioned your friend, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I would like you to share with us, your latest accomplishment, which I'm so proud of. Like, to call you my friend, I'm like, wow, okay. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. You're very, very humble as a person, and you have so many accomplishments. I mean, people would have seen you in so many ad commercials, but you take on a character so well, and your makeup department, whoever works with you, gets you into that character in terms of your look and makeup. And if I hadn't known it was you, I would have just thought like, oh my God, who is this guy? He's such a phenomenal performer. And people may not recognize you, but if we show them a couple of your ads, they're going to be like, wow. So I know the caliber of artist, as I like to call it. You're an artist extraordinaire.
So I think, Ashwin, till Avril is back, like there were a couple of questions that were on my mind. So I think I just got lucky, and maybe if I have the opportunity to ask you some of these questions.
Sure.
So Ashwin, I was really curious to know about, maybe Avril is going to cover this later as well, but what got you into the entertainment industry? Like, what was that trigger point for you, or like anything that you experienced that got you there?
My family. Every time we used to have get-togethers or parties at home. Since I was at the age of 6 onwards, my parents would ask me to imitate James Last, the conductor, or Incredible Hulk, or they would see that I imitated the particular uncle, the way he said something. And so at parties and stuff, they would ask me to do that. And that's where I first started imitating or cracking jokes and stuff. And so, yeah, that's where it started off first. And then I did a play growing up called Restless, the Spirit of Youth. And when I was doing that, one of the students, I think I spoke about this in another interview. One of the other kids asked me, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "No." And throughout the play, whenever I didn't have lines and I was sitting on stage, I was asking myself, why did I say that I was not nervous? And by the end of the play and the end of the performance, I realized because that's where I wanted to be. I was so comfortable being on stage. And that's when I came back to my parents and I said, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to study performing arts. So that's where it started.
Wow. Very, very beautifully shared, Ashvin. And it's really fantastic how I think what you wanted, you kind of experienced it in that moment, and it became a reality from then on. So wonderful. So Avril, I hope you can hear us.
Yes, sorry, the internet is playing Tron today. So sorry, it's pouring in Bangalore. So electricity.
Not a problem. I just took the opportunity to just hear from Ashvin on how he got into the entertainment industry. So thank you for sharing, Ashvin. So yeah, over to you, Avril.
Thank you so much, Kiva, for holding fort. And thanks, Ash, for hanging in there. So as I was saying, Ashvin, you're a very extraordinary performer in whatever you do in the arts. And I've always noticed that you're very humble. And I've been a part of show business for very long. You know my story. And I've, as a person myself, when I was in show business, I found it very testing to be humble, to be grounded, especially around people who were constantly pushing my buttons. I had to constantly remind myself because people have this habit of pushing your buttons for whatever reason. We're not passing judgment over here. I'm just, making a statement about how people are in general. What do you think is your superpower that keeps you calm, composed, even because I've seen you under extreme pressure, especially as a director with your latest movie, Tridevi, as a producer, as the script writer, as an actor, you've done it all in that movie. And you're still so grounded and you're so relaxed under immense pressure. And I've been a witness to it many times. How do you do that?
There are 2 or 3 parts to that question. One, I guess, is about humility. I think simply that the art is always greater than I am. And that's something that I always understand and just remind myself every day. Without somebody else's lines, I am not a performer. I cannot be an actor if I don't have somebody else's script or lines. So at no point do I ever think, this is it, I am it, or I have arrived. And I constantly remind myself, there are hundreds and hundreds of actors, performers, artists. Very easily you can be replaced. So when you get the opportunity to do something, to perform the art as best as you can, and always keep the art and the lines more important than you are. It's as simple as that. Another thing is, everything is constantly fleeting. So when you look at celebrity status, it can be here today, it can be gone tomorrow. But if you're just looking at being an actor, you can constantly get work. If you look for work, you can get work. But there's a difference between just being an actor or looking at performance and then becoming a celebrity. There's nothing wrong if that is your goal, but that isn't my goal. For me, it's about doing the work. It's about performing the art. Becoming famous or fame is a byproduct, and I treat it as such. I don't take it too seriously, because the minute I do, when it's not there and when it doesn't come, when I don't get the attention, it'll start bothering me. I will start doing things for the attention, and that can lead to depression and things like that, which, if you notice, is what happens with a lot of people these days. You attempt the 15 minutes of fame, and when those 15 minutes are passed, you don't know what to do, and you miss that adulation. And then what do you do to constantly get that? So it's a question you need to ask yourself and be prepared for, because that's what this industry is like. There's here today, gone tomorrow, which is also what I talk about my hair.
Yeah.
Hair today, gone tomorrow. That's about the humility part. under pressure, well, it's a lesson I learned from my granddad growing up. I think I was like maybe 8 or 10. We had a flat tire when we were driving back from the farm to Bangalore. And it was just getting dark. And my granddad asked me, are you nervous, young man? I mean, that's his typical fake seriousness. I said, I'm a little worried. He's like, why? And I said, it's getting dark and I don't know how we're going to fix this. He says, by being worried, you're not going to fix anything. So I'm going to ask you, which way should we walk? Should we walk towards Ramgunalli or should we walk towards Maratali? I thought about it and I said, Maratali is closer. He said, yes. So let's walk. And he said, you will not be able to think like that if you're going to get your worry and your fear overcome you at that moment. I know it's not easy for everybody to do that, but when there is stressful moments or something, you always need to take a step back and look at the situation and then think to yourself, how can I deal with this? And that's where I guess, Avril, what you teach, whether it's meditation or mindfulness or thing, it's also about understanding yourself and what you are capable of. And once you know what you're capable of, you step back and you perform accordingly. Fear, stress, nervousness, that only stops you from achieving what you are already capable of. I've accepted that. And so that's why I guess I'm constantly trying to be calm so that I can fix the problem. Most people have a plan A and a plan B. I have a plan B, C, D, E, and we try all the other plans. And even if E doesn't work, I've already set in motion with my crew and my best friends who work with me to fix A. So by the time we've tried all our options to see what works, and if E doesn't work, we're already ready to go back to A and fix it.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what I'm getting from this is that basically you're able to take a step back and analyze it objectively and see what are your options and how you can, go with what's working at that time. And the second thing that's come up to me with regards to the first part of the question is that you're very value driven. Your values are very strong. You're very value driven because you
Yes.
said it's about the art. It's not about the 15 minutes of fame. It's about the art. And also I happened to chance upon a little bit of the conversation that Kiva was just having with you. And when your friend asked you when you were little, when in the play, why weren't you nervous? You then realized that this is where you belong. This is where you wanted to be. So you're doing it because you think you think like an actor. You think this is your craft and this is something that you were probably, that's something ingrained in you. That's something that's part of you. Would that be?
Wanted to do as well, yes.
Wanted to do as well, yeah.
See, sometimes we're not, that we have the yearning, but then we realize we are not capable. But then again, we should learn how to deal with that heartache.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who'd love to sing, but they're not really good singers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people who'd love to act, but they might not be great actors. Accept that. That's another thing. And that comes from knowing yourself and knowing how to deal with these things. Being truthful and honest to yourself, that's very important.
That's really amazing. Thank you for sharing that, being truthful and honest. I mean, those are like really foundation pillars on which you can grow. Otherwise, there's no room for growth, right?
Absolutely.
Ash, you have very strong matriarchal figures in your life. I've met your mom. She's amazing. She's such a feisty, strong woman. Can you tell us how that has shaped you as a person, as a man, and as an artist?
I grew up with my grandparents. My parents were in the Gulf, so they didn't like some of the schools that were there at that time. So they sent me to Bangalore to live with my grandparents. So I grew up with my grandmom and granddad, and my grandmom was a very, very strong personality. So I grew up watching her, and she was ill. She had a lot of health issues, and yet it never stopped her from being an extremely powerful person who gets what she wants. Like, for example, for the harvest festivals in church, everybody wanted Mrs. Cherian's halwas. And these are the halwas that, you need to stand and like you're talking about hours of thing. So, and she was paralyzed on one side of her body, and after physiotherapy. She could just barely move it. So, but she would still sit there close by and tell the people who are working, say, take a punch of this, now put a punch of this. And she'd sit there and watch them and say, and now do this, and now do that. So she was very commanding in the way she would be. And I watched how she could talk to a whole lot of people and get work done, even when she could not get up herself from the chair. So that was about commanding respect, which is something I saw a woman do. And I also saw the way my granddad responded to her. Yes, he was a feminist, I guess, but I don't want to use the word feminist because it also, again, becomes a gender-specific way of thinking, and which is not wrong. But he wasn't feminist in his mind. He was just an equalist, if I can say that. Yeah. When my grandmom was ill, one day very ill, and she was taken to the hospital, and she asked my granddad to go back because she said, the boy is alone at home. Why don't you go back? And he was very serious that day. He came back. He wanted to stay in the hospital, but he had to come back because of me. Hey, and she said, I don't think he would have eaten. And again, I was like 10 or something. My granddad came home, took me to the kitchen, and he said, come here, I want to show you something. He made me an omelet. He stir-fried tuna with vegetables, made stuffed omelet with tuna, got me to cut strawberries, made strawberries and cream, put it in the fridge. And he told me, you've just made, we have just made a 2-course meal. And he told me, never expect a woman to be there in your life to cook a very good meal for yourself. You need to know how to make a meal for yourself, an excellent meal for yourself, and also cook for the woman in your life. So I think they helped me break gender stereotypes at a very young age. Like, this is not necessarily a woman's job. This is, like, it's everybody's job. It's everybody needs to pitch in. And then growing up with my mom came back, and my brothers and me moved to the farm, and we all took turns to do stuff. My mom would cook, we would wash. Then she would teach us to bake, and then she would wash. So everything constantly kept changing. And we grew up thinking that everything is everybody's work. So I think that helped me in many ways treat people differently, not as this is something for men and this is something for women. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, now I'm really understanding much more deeply. I mean, even though I've known you for so long, I've never heard this story. And now I'm able to understand how it is that you can relate to each person in a room, because you're one of those people who can read a room really well. Because this is what I've noticed about you. Like even today, when we were sitting with some friends, you would wait for each person to speak. You would give them their space. You would sit back, you would take it in, and then you would contribute if you needed to contribute. So for me, that's a very, very, it's a very generous way of being. It's a very calm, very composed, very, I don't know what the right word would be, but it's not like you're foistering your opinion on people. You're very, it's kind of being very, in a state of, I wouldn't say equanimity, but kind of very balanced. And I've noticed even when you talk to your teams, like I was also privy to some of your meetings because you're releasing your first film and you were talking about the music and you were talking about this and that. And you treat people with complete focus, complete attention. You listen very innately, very clearly to what they're saying. You understand what, so your communication is extremely powerful. How did you learn to communicate so well?
I'll start with the last part first, Av. When I'm working on a film or any project, you're working with people who are brilliant in their respective fields. So it's only the right thing to do to give them their space to, to hear them out. And as a director, you just direct. It's like, not a composer, a conductor. You're not making the entire film. There's a whole lot of people putting in their best efforts, and only then when you collect that whole thing, it becomes a film. So everybody is important in their field. So it's only right to listen. And I think one of the best advice that a very famous director, John Huston, gave is 80% of your work as a director is done if you cast correctly. If you cast the best actors that you can get for a particular thing, then you don't need to direct them. They already know. Maybe you need to give them a little thing because you know the bigger picture. So you can tell them where the playground is. And within that playground, they as talented people will play. So giving everyone their respect in their fields. It's also a matter of letting go. You know, like when you're doing something, you need to let them do their job and listen to them and take their opinion about things, because you're not always right. We don't have all the answers. And I know, God knows, I don't have all the answers. So that's why I work with talented people and I take them seriously and I listen to them. And to come to your first part of the thing about communication and listening to people, I need to thank one of my mentors, Mr. Jagdish Raja, who was my first theater director, and the workshops that I did was with Arundhati Raja and Jagdish Raja.
Yeah,
and
amazing people.
Artist Repertory Theater. And absolutely. I remember 25 years ago, he told me we were talking about actors and theater performances and stuff. And he said he had listened to Laurence Olivier's radio interview in the 60s. And someone asked him, what is the best advice you can give to the young actors or the upcoming actors? And he said, I can bring it down to one word: listen. In theater, on stage, in film, you don't act like you're listening. You don't need to act like you're listening. And if you watch a lot of movies, you see people going,
yeah.
That's them acting like they're listening. You're wasting time. Why don't you just really listen? And wow. When I did that, you realize, especially on film or in theater, when you actually listen, people think that you're listening. Oh, look, he's acting really well. No, I'm not acting. I'm just reacting. I'm actually listening. And then once I started doing that, I also realized it really helps in life and relationships as well. Just listen. If you listen to your partner, if you listen to people around you, there's so much you can learn about them. We listen to respond. No, just listen to listen. You know what I mean? And also I have accepted for the fact that every day you're learning something. Every moment is a learning process. In every walk of life, we're constantly learning, and you can't learn unless you listen.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Ash, because this is so akin to what we do as coaches. You know, we have a marker in coaching and it's called active listening. And active listening is to listen. There are so many levels of listening, and a lot of the coaches would know Otto Scharman talks about listening. There are so many levels of listening, and we have to listen to just listen, not to listen with the intent to respond. And you said it so aptly. The other thing that I found very similar to what we do is in coaching is coaches don't have the answers. We are there to partner with the client, because the client has their own universal intelligence, their own divine intelligence, their own intellectual cognition, which they can use because they have the answers. They just need some deciphering. So we have to put ourselves last and put the client first. Just like you said that, you know, if you have the actors, 80% of your film is done. And just like you have different people helming different, you know, they're each masters at their craft and you're just putting it all together. So that was something that I wanted to point out as something that, you know, we could also understand as coaches, because what you're saying is so similar. The way you're approaching it is from such an equal, you know, stance, from an equal stance.
A lot of the time people have their own responses, or I'm not getting the word. What do you call it? When you're looking for an answer, they have the answer within themselves. So as coaches, if we understand their problem and we listen to them, we can direct them to their own self-realization.
Wow, that's really nice. Absolutely. Because you can't show people self-realization. It's something that they have to realize for themselves. That's why it's called self-realization. Nobody has the answers for you. You have the answers, but you probably just need a little bit of waiting around. You need some direction. Yeah, exactly. Direction, right? Coming to that, I know that you give a lot back in your own community, in your own fraternity. I know that you've mentored a lot of young actors. You've even acted in their ad films for free. You've acted, you know, advised them on their projects. So you have the habit of giving back, which is why I admire you so deeply, because a lot of people in our industry, I'm saying our industry because I'm talking to you also as an artist. In our industry, people don't give back very easily. In fact, even when they can, for some reason, they don't. And you're one of those people who does a lot and who doesn't make a big hue and cry about it. You do it behind curtains, behind closed doors. You don't make a huge hue and cry about it. What drives you to give back to people and to be a mentor?
I learned that from my parents. They're constantly helping people in many ways and without any expectations. And the idea of paying it forward is very important for me. Gratitude is a very important aspect for me. And I constantly remind myself that I am where I am because somebody somewhere took a chance on me. And it's only right for me to do that for other people. And it's also benefited me, I mean, in many ways, because I remember this guy called Arjun. Arjun called me once and he said he's just out of film school. He'd done a diploma in filmmaking, and he had written a short script and he was wondering if I would act in it. And I love the fact that he had guts to call me and ask me. And a lot of people said, no, man, he's an actor. I don't think he'd do your film. I like the fact that he asked me, and I'm like, let's meet. And I met and I listened to his script and I loved it. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it. And we had a wonderful time. We made the short film. I think he won some awards in America for it. I think it was the Chevrolet International Short Film Festival. I think he won second place for it. And then 4 years later, he calls me saying that he's now an ad filmmaker and he wants me to act in an ad that he's shooting. And he specifically asked for me. So in some way it came back, and I was glad that what I had done for him helped him. And it was also nice to meet him and work with him when he had reached a different stage. So the idea of paying it forward is very important, because we constantly need to remind ourselves that no matter how self-made you think you are, you could not have done it unless somebody held an umbrella for you somewhere, or gave you a drink of water when you were thirsty, or something in some way, an encouraging word, some advice. All that helps, and all that is help. And you need to recognize that. And when you realize that and you say, I'd like to do the same for somebody else, it's just as simple as that. Pay it forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ash. I'm also wondering about the fact that in this industry, there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of insecurity, a lot of ego and insecurity. But you are always pushing against ego. You are always focused on the project. You're always, thinking very thought-provoking ideas. What drives you to go beyond the ordinary? And how can that, how can you as an artist inspire people?
I wouldn't presume to think that I could inspire anybody to do anything, but if asked what would I like as an outcome of what I do, it would be a mix of being a comedian, a stand-up comedian, or a performer, is to not take yourself too seriously. And automatically the ego quotient falls down. It's not about you. It's about the art. It's about the script. It's about entertaining people. If you're not going to do it, somebody else can do it. So constantly just remind yourself that it's not you. That's the big thing. Always, the minute you enter where art is being followed, leave your ego at the door.
Okay.
When you, like, for example, if you're playing a character that is different from your social status or from the class that you've grown up in, I don't like using that word, but it exists.
Yeah.
You cannot approach that character or that character's way of thinking if you're thinking with your ego or what you're used to. You need to break that down. You need to unlearn. You need to get back to basics. You need to get back on the ground and then build that character from there. Read the lines, learn the lines, hit your cues. Just do the job, do the homework, and not tell yourself, oh, look at me, I am doing this. No.
I understood that. You know, you said something very important. Like I keep catching these small words that you say, but they have so much meaning for us as coaches. We need to unlearn, because unless we come with the attitude of learning, because we can learn from our clients also. We are learning from our clients every day, because it's not a one-sided conversation. It's a dialogue. It's a relationship where we are partnering with each other. And what I really like about what you're talking with us today, it's unconscious because you're speaking from your heart, but it's so relevant to this conversation because you use the word unlearn. And unless you unlearn, you're going to always come into a conversation with an unconscious bias, right?
Yes.
With some unconscious bias.
It's the way the part of society that you've grown up in, the kind of family that you've grown up in. We come with these set ideas of this is how things are, this is how people do stuff, this is how I do stuff, this is how somebody else does stuff. And that'll always be in our heads unless we break those things down, unlearn, and then start learning again. In India, we have a big problem when it comes to caste system, class system. And simple thing, we go out somewhere. If you have a driver, you go with your driver. You stop for lunch, you give your driver money for them to go out and have lunch wherever, and you go and eat lunch wherever, and then you say, I'm done, and they come and pick you up. I asked myself and my mom this question sometime. I said, let's get the driver to eat with us. And she's like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, let's call him. And he had a problem with that because he's like, no, why would I sit with you all and eat? And I'm like, we don't do that because we're thinking, okay, we don't want them to sit with us for whatever reason. But you need to tell yourself, he is sitting in the same car with you for hours at a time, and that's okay. That time his caste or his class doesn't bother you. But when you sit down to eat, it's not about saving another X amount of money because he's eating with you. But it's just the thing that, oh no, he's a driver, he shouldn't eat with us. How does that work? How do you, but it's because we've already accepted that he's a driver, he eats separately. The thing, this is where we need to unlearn. You tell yourself, hang on, he's spending so much time in the same closed thing with you. Now he's just sitting and eating with you. What's the big deal?
Wow.
That doesn't come unless we unlearn, we break these things, and then we grow on that.
Absolutely. Ashvin, I'm just going to answer a few questions because there are a few questions pouring in. So do you mind answering a few questions?
Sure. Absolutely.
Great. So there's one question come in. I don't know from who it is, but it says, what does one need to do to prevent security of my ideas, in inverted commas, going out while helping others?
It depends on what you mean by my ideas. That's let's say you're sharing your ideas with somebody while you're helping them. I'm trying to think of a situation where that would come in. It would be when you're discussing ideas. Well, see, first of all, India does have a very, very big problem with copyright, but it's getting better day by day. There are some things you need to keep to yourself, your ideas and stuff, you protect them. But at the same time, if you need to help other people, you help them with other ideas or with the ideas that work best for them. We don't need to expose our inner ideas and thoughts and make ourselves extremely vulnerable when we help other people. We can protect ourselves and still help somebody else in life and in the arts.
Thank you, Ashvin. I hope that answered your question, whoever asked this question. The next question is, where does vulnerability factor come into the concept of hero?
Again, I think you become stronger when you protect yourself. You know, I think the best way to explain this is when you're in an airplane, they say, use the, the oxygen mask over yourself first before you help somebody else, which means you're protecting yourself first, then you can protect somebody else. So protect yourself, be vulnerable to the people you trust. Be open with your vulnerability to people who need to understand your vulnerability, but otherwise protect yourself at all cost. Do not wear your heart on your shoulder unless you have to, and only with the right people.
Well said, Ashvin. Thank you so much. And another question, how do heroes use wisdom?
I'm not really sure if I can answer that, because one is assuming that I'm a hero and the other one is assuming that I'm wise, which I constantly, like wake up every morning and say, that Amitabh Bachchan thing, "Dekh tera thopda aine mein dekh, pukka idiot lagta hai," is what I constantly tell myself when I look in the mirror. So I don't know if I can, but see, the thing is, forget being a hero. Let's talk about the wisdom part. You become a better human being when you learn things. And learning means constantly unlearning and learning. Listening makes you learn more. Read, watch movies, listen to music. I mean, the world is constantly a classroom. And the more you do that, the more stronger you become, the more wise you become. And that way you can help other people only when you know. Like a lawyer can help somebody only because they know the law, or a doctor helps other people because they know, well, we hope they know what they're talking about. So the constant pursuit of wisdom is the greatest achievement or greatest adventure that anybody can go on in this life. You can sit in your house and just read and read and read, and that itself is a beautiful journey for any hero.
Yes, and if you've been to Ashvin's house, the entire first floor, half of it is a library. Can you see? This is part of it. It's the library. Ashvin is such an avid reader. He reads such a variety of books, and that's why, as you can hear from the way he talks, from his conversation, you can hear that he really practices what he's talking about. And I'm not just saying this for talking's sake, I really mean it. I'll ask another question from somebody. Bhavishya is asking this question. How can truly confirm and help themselves? Okay, so how can one, okay, where's the question gone? How can one truly confirm and help themselves in identifying niches or traits of personality for achieving excellence?
This comes from understanding yourself. This comes from facing your fears. What are you capable of? What are you incapable of? What are you scared of? And that can happen only when you take chances or face different situations in your life. And when you face that, you don't run away from them. You take notes. Oh, I was worried about this. I was scared about that. Or this is something I'm not sure. Again, we might think that that's a very difficult thing. It might be difficult to face your fears, but you also look at it. How do you know that you don't like coffee? How do you know that you don't like veg samosas? Because you tried it. So try it. Go out there and talk to different people. Get into different situations. Learn as much as you can about yourself, and then find your strong points, and then work on your strong points, and work more on your negative points or the points that you're weak at. And then you find out the little things that, this is something that I'm good at, like what you say, your cliques and your niches. And then you make your mark in that.
Thank you.
I hope I answered that question.
Well, I hope that you answered it too, but you answered it for me. But I hope Bhavishya is happy with that. Our next question is, as a creative professional, what are some coaching approaches you use for creative people who have the feeling of knowing it all or are dismissive of the world?
There's nothing much I can do to help them. Well, I'm not really sure. You just talk to them. Like if they're one thing, if I am doing a creative workshop and they're there, I treat them with the respect where, well, at least they're there. So they've come there. That is something. If
Yeah.
they feel that I know it all, I don't need to come, then they wouldn't come. So I work on the fact that thank you for coming. And then automatically I do give them their respect. They're coming, some of them, I guess, would know nothing and then still think there's something. But I've not met too many people like that. But the fact is, they might still know a lot. Always, they'd know stuff that I don't, and I'd know stuff they don't. And once I establish that with them, that this is a give and take, I'm going to learn from them as much as they're going to learn from me. When we step on that stage of equality, and then we have a conversation there, I think it breaks down that thing of, oh, okay, I can talk to this guy. And that's where I would talk to them from, where I'll be like, please don't think I'm talking down to you. This is a conversation where I'm going to learn from you as well. So if you feel that you know a lot, tell me, talk to me.
Wow, that's a really very unique way of approaching it. And this again touches another marker for us. And there's something in coaching which Archana Gupta has very rightly pointed out called unconditional positive regard, where you have unconditional regard for your client. And you're not a know-it-all, you're not a be-it-all, you're an open vessel, and you have unconditional regard for the person sitting in front of you in your office or wherever you're coaching that person. And I really like the word that you use, on the basis of equality, because when you're talking to people as an equal, it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation, because it registers with that person also, because they can sense it in your communication. So thank you for answering that so beautifully. You've just directed a movie, you've produced it, you've written the script, it's getting ready for release. I've seen the trailer, and this is again not biased, it's amazing.
Yes. So there's a question here. Says, once trust is broken, what are your next steps to regain it?
It depends on the situation, and it depends who the person or the situation. Communication is always extremely important. Why was this trust broken? Was there a miscommunication? Or nothing just happens without any reason. If it's between two people, sometimes you tell somebody something and then they break your trust. This is an example. They break your trust by telling somebody else that. There is a situation where sometimes that person didn't know how important this was to you. And so that's why they were flippant about it and they spoke to somebody else. And if you ask them saying, why would you do that? Why would you tell them that? I trusted you to keep it yourself. And if the communication again is like not angry, not filled with vitriol, they'd go, oh, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't realize it meant so much to you. So I guess it's a question of communication. And if the trust has been broken, you need to talk to the other person and ask them why it happened. And sometimes if you realize that that person didn't care much to keep your trust, you walk away. You don't trust that person again. Well, I would say you don't trust that person again. You behave differently. You've learned your lesson. When you make a mistake once, it's called an accident or a mistake. But when it happens again and again, it's a choice. So you try and understand why that person has broken your trust, if they're important for you to know that. Otherwise, you learn your lesson and you move on. There is no need to be angry about it. There is no need to continue being angry about it or hold it in your mind, because that's just going to bring you down and stop you from doing other things. Let it go.
I think the part about anger is really, really important, because I think at times we do say that, okay, I've put that behind me now. But if there is a part of it that's still within you, kind of manifests in other ways that probably become like a challenge for yourself, right? Like on the journey that you're on. So wonderfully and very wisely shared.
I think there's a Buddhist saying or an ancient Chinese saying, when you search for revenge, dig two graves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that.
And another thing, coming back to talking about wisdom and heroes and stuff, there's another nice saying that I like to, which inspires me a lot. It says, act so in the valley, like you do not fear those who stand on the hill.
Wow.
And that can only come by being powerful yourself, and knowledge is powerful, wisdom is powerful.
Absolutely. What do you think, Eva? Don't you agree?
I agree. And I think Yamini on the chat box had shared something around this. She said a hero is somebody who probably knows themselves. And I think a person who's, on the valley and looking up at the person on the hill is probably really still, has accepted their own reality and knows who they are, for them to be able to say something like that. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ash, for being so gracious and holding fort while the internet plays hide and seek with me.
Not at all. I think
I just wanted to ask Ash to share with us something. Like I said, he's just finished, producing, directing, acting, and writing a movie all by himself with his eclectic team. And I know all of them. And like Ash says, they are masters at their craft. And what they've done is going to be seen for the first time in Kannada cinema, according to me. It's a class movie. And I'm very honest with Ash. We have a very honest relationship. So if I had to give any critical feedback, I would have given it to him, and I have none. Not that I know much. He knows much more than me. But as an artist, you like to give people feedback about, your artistic impressions of what they do and share it in a good spirit, not with, a negative connotation. Having said that, Ash, I would like you to share with them the latest news that you shared with me today about. Please.
So I mentioned one of my really close friends. Her name is Anu George Kandanatopal. She's the head of International Justice Mission Canada. And during one of our conversations sometime back, she was talking about missing children, child labor, child slavery around the world. And I told her that for the film, we had written a song called The Lullaby for the Missing. Actually, it was called Kandapadya, or blank verse. And the song is about a mother calling out to her daughters to come home. So I had an idea, and I told Anu, let's make a music video as a tribute to missing children around the world. So we made this music video. It's called A Lullaby for the Missing. It's on YouTube. Please do watch it. We're very proud of it. And
can I share the link with them, Ashvin? If you give it to me, I can share it with Kiva, because a lot of people are asking to share your handle, your email, and
yes,
they want to see.
Sure.
They also want a link to see the trailer of the movie. So if you can share that with me, I'll share it with Kiva.
Sure. I'll definitely send that. And now we just heard that the Rotaract Canada and the International Justice Mission and a whole lot of other groups are presenting a bill to the Canadian Parliament that bans the sale of any product by any company that has used child labor in any part of its supply chain. So which means, see, for example, in India, we have banned child labor, but still we have companies that sell shoes or whatever that uses child labor in Malaysia or Indonesia, wherever. So now this is a bill that stops the company from selling its product in Canada if child labor was used even in another country. So Canada will be the first country that, if the bill is passed, it will be the first country to have this. And when they are presenting the bill to the members of Parliament, they're going to be showing our music video first, The Lullaby for the Missing. And we're so proud of that.
And I'm so super excited. I'm jumping out of my skin here. I'm so excited for you, because you guys, when you hear this song, you will be moved to tears. I'm thinking of the song and I'm tearing up. I just heard it again this evening, and it is just, I cannot tell you how impactful that song is. And it was so apt for this cause and for this mission. So thank you, Ash, for being such a sensitive artist and such a fantastic person. And if there are any more questions, I don't have any more questions, because people asked a lot of my questions for me. There's somebody saying, can you repeat the saying about wisdom? Did you say something about wisdom, Ash? Some saying about wisdom? Marissa.
Well, if I remember, I said the pursuit of wisdom is one of the greatest adventures in life that you can go on. I think that's one of the things I said. And I said, the more you learn, the more powerful you become. And that's how you become.
I think
you become a hero when you learn. You constantly learn. Only then you can help somebody.
Yes.
Like a coach in a football team or a cricket team, they need to know the rules first. They need to know how the game is played so that they can teach other people how to play the game. So,
absolutely. Well, I would just like to close with asking you one more final question, which I ask all my guests. If this was your last day on earth, and if you were only allowed to take one thing with you when you left, whether it's a value, whether it's anything, it doesn't have to be a material object, anything. What is that one thing that you would take with you?
My memories.
Can you expand on that a little bit, if you don't mind?
I live my life in a very strange way where, well, I have the liberty to do it because I don't have a 9-to-5 job. And even, I guess even when I did have a regular job, I listen to at least one of my favorite songs a day, or I listen to a new song based on what I like. I would read something every day, whether it's a poem or a short story. I would read something. I would watch at least one film or one episode of a TV series that I really like. Every day I tell my parents that I love them. I'd have a conversation with them. And I would message my family, my brothers, telling them that I love them. Because then the roof can fall on my head, or I can be hit by a truck at any time, and I'd have no regrets. So every day that I do this, I constantly create memories for myself, which is what I think of when I'm not doing anything. And hence I'm never bored, because I have 48 years of memories. So if I was left with one thing that I can take with me, is the ability for me to carry my memories with me.
Wow. I don't know what to say after that. So I think I'd better just zip it. But since I can't zip it and I love to talk, I'm just going to go on to say that the audience today has been so fabulous. Everybody has been sending in so much of love, so much respect, and so much, just involvement in this entire conversation, because you've been so generous, so kind, so giving, and you've just been so authentic. And somebody says, thanks for the inspiration. I mean, everybody, Kiva is looking at the chat, and she's also going a bit nuts with too much love, says Archana.
Thank you so much. I have to just say one thing though. I think I may have mentioned this. I am where I am, or I have reached where I have reached, only because I had people constantly helping me along the way. From some of the greatest friends, loving family, partners who have been in my life at different stages. So I am standing where I am standing, and that is on the shoulders of all these people. And I come back to always my friends and my family. My brothers treated me like I was a superstar since I was 12 years old. I'm not kidding. They treated me like I was a superstar when I was 12. The way they would look up to me, the way they would ask me about songs, and I see them even now, the way they do that. And this is something I'd like to let you all know. The way your children behave with other people, or the way our family behaves with other people, is how we behave with those people. My brothers have my photographs on their refrigerator door. They have my photographs in different places. So when their children are looking at this, they grow up knowing that there is love between them, their parents, and with me. And they see that constantly. And so when they meet me, they have that same love towards me. So it's again a question of passing it on. So I've been blessed with some of the greatest people that I call my friends, and Avrril, you're one of them. And it's constantly, when you talk about them, you have no other choice but to be genuine and honest, because otherwise I'm doing a disservice to them. I am what I am because of these people.
Ashvin, I don't know what to say except to say thank you. And I'm just going to sum it up like this. You are love. You don't love, you don't have love, you don't give love, you just are love, and everything else flows from there. I've seen you welcoming strangers into your home. I've seen you never speak a bad word about anybody who is not in your life anymore, even when they have done certain things which other people would cringe at. You have taken it on the, literally taken it on the face, but you have literally shown respect to them because, like you said, you've learned something from everybody. And that is so rare to find. So thank you so much for enriching us for this last 60 minutes with your compassion, your warmth, your wisdom, your generosity, and your authenticity. And most of all, your willingness to be here and do this for no agenda, except to probably share something with an audience who may not have had privy to you in the past, but who certainly are going to be fans after this. And
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome, Ash. And Kiva, thank you, my ever dynamic, and I don't know, you're so full of positive energy. You're always there to egg us on. I love your podcast. I keep watching it with Smita, and thank you for holding fort for me, especially with all the power failures. And thank you to everybody on this call. We're getting lots of hearts and thumbs up and congratulations and all sorts of emojis, which I don't understand because I'm way past the age and stage. But thank you, everybody. And Kiva, I'm going to leave it to you to wrap this up. And Ashvin, if there's something that you would like to say, now's your time. Otherwise,
or forever hold your tongue.
Yeah, or forever hold your speech. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here and answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yamini. Thank you, Kiva. I'm signing off. Over to you, Kiva.
I'm just going to close out with one thing for just both of you. Thank you so much for being who you are. It's really, really been incredible just hearing this conversation and also to experience the friendship that you both share. So just wonderful to have been a part of this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I wish everybody the best.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all. See you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good day.